All right, now what we got here is a hay buster. I've rented for Southern States now. It was a mess, so I cleaned it all out, pulled those empty handles and took an air hose to it, pulled these handles right here, and emptied it out with an air hose, blew it out real good, got all the junk that was left in the bottom. There was even some tape, or somebody taped up a few of the holes. I peeled it off. It was pretty hard to get off because it had been on there for a few years, but made sure all the hoses were empty. I shook each one of them, gave them all a good shake, made sure they're all in, making sure that the seed will actually fall down the tubes, otherwise it just gathers up and then clogs up and you're not sowing seed and your field looks like crap when you're done. I checked all the tines and blew them all out. I also, most cool season grasses are 1/4 inch, and even legumes you want less. So what I did is I preset the hydraulic cylinder with these chocks to barely basically be scratching the ground, 1/4 inch. I'll get a little bit of that a little bit more later, but I basically wanted these tines basically to go in there, and or these coulters to barely get in the ground, because burying your seed is the worst thing you can do, even if it's, all cool season grasses and legumes, that's the worst thing you can do, basically. I power washed it off. Little trick to the trade here when it comes to setting your legume box is tap this all the way over to the right and then tap it all the way over to the left before you set your seed. That way you know exactly if it's calibrated properly. The key is, you get on these legumes, they're very expensive, especially alfalfa seed, and you can easily put double the amount of seed in there if you don't set these properly. Basically, take and observe it when you're knocking it back and forth. If it doesn't completely close at 0, then it's not calibrated right. If it's not completely open when it's on 16, it's not calibrated right. So most of them aren't. It's a pretty rudimentary system. Remember, there's 2 of them. So there's 2. There's one over there and there's one over here. And make sure you tap them closed and start from there. That way you're calibrated at 0 at least to start, and you can see how much it's opening per notch that you so selected. And I always hedge on the bottom side with expensive seed, at least to start, because as you guys well know, you end up going and buying more seed when your mistakes are made. All right, now we're coming to the real trick of the trade here. I used to have I couldn't see the slits in the ground, and it's human nature to want to make a mark so that you can see where you're going, and therefore you're planting your seed too deep. So I came up with an idea. Basically, I run a log chain between those tow hooks back there on the cedar, and then I find the middle link and I attach a 10-foot chain to it, and a 10-foot chain drag way back there. Now you're like, Kevin, why's it got to be so far back there? Well, it's got to be far back there so you can turn and it doesn't get caught into your wheels. So when you turn, you can imagine this chain getting caught in that wheel. But if it's way back there, you won't. So I master link it into the 10-foot chain drag, and that chain drag marks the ground and scratches in the seed that's sitting on top of the ground. If it didn't get in, or a hard spot, it may scratch out some of the seed out of the coulters, but in my opinion, you get better seed to soil contact, and the coulters are still, I haven't had much seed scratched out. If you plant it 1/4 inch, it'll pop one out, but if it's a legume, probably better off being right there in some scratched up ground and whatnot anyway. The other thing I like to notice is the calibration on these machines is that hole. Now this one's set on 7.5. Look at that hole. Look at that hole. Look at all that hole. All right, now let's go and look at the other side, the middle box, the grain box. It's set on 7.5, and the holes are ever so slightly smaller. They should be exactly the same, but they're not. So I always try to match them up. If you're using both boxes, I always go with the smaller hole of the two. I've had boxes that are double the size. These two boxes seem like they're calibrated fairly well, but I've been on machines where it's just like twice the size of the hole. So double check that, and always hedge on the bottom side once again. That way you don't run out of seed. I hope these tips helped. Make sure you grease your machine, blow everything out, empty it out, close your handles before you dump your seed in. Obviously I've done that before and had to sweep it up. Make sure your gear wheel that turns the drive shaft is on the ground and has air in it. That's really about it. I've been sowing seed for a long time, and there's a lot of people that make a lot of mistakes, and I hate to see us agriculture guys don't have much margins for error, and I've seen people waste a lot of seed. But we got a lot of ground to cover this year. Make sure you prep yourself or set yourself up for success. I always seed out of the middle box and the legume box, just because I like looking back and seeing the seed flow, and if there's any issues, I'll be able to catch it immediately. Normally there's caps on top of these right here. I take them off and put them back on when I'm done. There's also a cover. I take it off and put it back on. This one doesn't seem to have a cover, but basically I like to see the seed flowing, and I like to see the chains pulling and the seed flowing out, making sure there's nothing stuck in there, so that I'm getting exactly what I'm paid for. Any other tips that I have can be found on my Willy Wonka Farming page, YouTube channel. If you like this video, make sure you subscribe. Thanks.